Thank you for interviewing me. The journey from Swansea, UK, kind of a long one. I was interested in Buddhism from high school. So I went to Japan, then to Taiwan to study Buddhism. So I lived 6-7 years in Japan and then about over 20 years in Taiwan. Then I was requested to come to Bhutan by my teacher, who's Bhutanese, and that was 17 years ago. I've been here ever since, and it's nice place to be. Very sacred, very beautiful. I study primarily in Japan and Taiwan. They are Mahayana countries. So what we have here in Bhutan is a branch of Mahayana called Vajrayana. Sometimes they just say Tantric Buddhism. It's the one we have here is unique in a way because it's the only kingdom or the only country that it's a sort of a national religion. It exists. Vajrayana exists in pockets in, say, Nepal, in the Himalayan areas of Nepal, and in Taiwan, in the cities maybe. But it's the only sort of country that you could say is the national religion. It uses a lot of special techniques to awaken us to the reality. Because the aim of Buddhism is only one, and that's to awaken to reality, to become enlightened. And so, and they have special techniques which we can accomplish that maybe more directly. I would say not, I guess quicker, but maybe more directly is the way. It goes directly to the heart of the issue. So it's a very unique system, and it's been predicted that in this kind of era where we call it degenerate age, when things start to go down, people lose interest, people become more materialistic, the kind of Buddhism we have here in Bhutan would be more appropriate. I was interested in Buddhism since high school. I think it was more like looking curiosity about life and thinking, do I want to follow that standard way of life? Everybody was doing pretty much the same thing. I'm not saying that's wrong, but I was wondering whether that was the main purpose of life, to go to school, graduate, go to college, get a job, have a wife, have children, have 2 weeks holiday a year. I thought, I'm not saying that that's wrong, but just saying that was, I wondered whether that was the real purpose in life. And I didn't want to be the 65-year-old guy. I thought, I wish I did something else. So I decided to look at the reasons, looking at life through different angles, and Buddhism made the most sense. So then I decided to go to Japan first to study Zen Buddhism, and then to Taiwan, because I felt Buddhism offered freedom. And I think everybody wants freedom, whether you're doing it to go to college or you're getting married or whatever. You want some kind of happiness or freedom. And I felt Buddhism offered that freedom because it's based on mind. And unless your mind is free, then whatever else you're doing, you're not going to feel that sense of freedom. Before here, I was in Taipei. Taipei is a big city. It's got 10 million people, so everything is very different there. In Bhutan, especially in Thimphu, you kind of know everyone. So after being here a year or two, it's like, everyone you know is in Taipei. Under the skyscrapers and night markets, you don't see anyone you know. I thought the people were friendly. That was my first impression. Easy to talk to. Tease. I got a habit of teasing and joking, and sometimes, not every country they appreciate, they're very sensitive, but Bhutanese generally are not. They usually enjoy kind of somebody joking or teasing. They joke back, laugh back. So they're not that sensitive to things, which is very nice. In this day and age where people tend to be oversensitive, I think Bhutan still has that rustic charm where people can, just mess around, joke around without getting offended. You don't have to think of every word you say. I don't know much about culture. I think Buddhism, for me, is the ultimate goal for anyone. I think Buddhism aims to show you the reality. And until we see reality, we're always going to be confused, whatever we do. It's like going, for example, I give a simple example. If a child goes to a tsechu, which is a mask dance festival in Bhutan, he'll see the monsters, with the mask, and he'll be scared. chocolate, and he'll react. And if his mother says, no, they're just monks, or maybe the relatives will give ice cream or chocolate to distract him, he's always going to be a little scared. He's not fully going to trust his mother's feeling, and even the chocolate will only distract momentarily. But then if he goes, say, to the bathroom in the breakdown and he sees the monk taking off the mask, it's really just a monk. From that moment, he'll relax. And that's what Buddhism does. Everything else is really just a kind of placebo. It just distracts, whether it's Facebook or TV, or it just distracts you. But we're always kind of scared of what's going to happen, our sicknesses. We're attached to our material things, but will they disappear? Will things change? So Buddhism basically shows you reality. And when you see reality, then that's it. It's like waking from a nightmare. It's like, it was just a dream. So I would say culture, I don't know, but Buddhism is, I would say, embedded in Bhutan. So I would say Bhutan's gift to the world, if that's the word, would be Buddhism, because it has preserved it very well, especially in the form. At least the form is there. The monasteries and the sacred sites. So I think that would be Bhutan's gift to the world, especially at this time when things are quite unstable. I think people need wisdom, and I think the general academics of the West don't give that kind of wisdom. They just try to deal with the circumstance without seeing the reality. You can practice parts of Buddhism, but it's not going to heal you. It's like the aunts and uncles giving chocolate to the boy in the thing, or they might distract his mind and say, look at that, and he'll be distracted, but still he's going to have a fear that that's a monster. So the things, the aspects of Buddhism, I don't think we can really cherry pick. It's not going to hurt. I mean, people do use aspects of Buddhism, and it does help. I mean, people who are suicidal may use certain techniques of meditation. And I can't say that is wrong. It's fine. But in the ultimate goal, those things are not going to last. When you're very sick, when you're dying in the hospital, after you die and you're going through the bardo, which is the intermediate stage, those things will not last. You're still believing that the mask is real. You've not seen the reality. Just like you're in a nightmare, and in the nightmare, people have shown you meditation, you've calmed your mind, you've relaxed, maybe your depression has dropped. That's fine, but you're still in the nightmare. Buddhism is to wake you up from the nightmare. When you realize it's just a nightmare, nothing will scare you again. We still have great masters here. That's why when I was in Taiwan, I got interested in this kind of Buddhism, because so many of the monks are coming from Nepal and Bhutan to Taiwan, because Taiwan is a very developed country, very educated country, very civilized country, but they know that they need something more than just wealth. They know it's not enough. So that's why so many of our monks go to places like Taiwan, and in recent times, I guess Malaysia, Singapore, and Hong Kong. So Bhutan has it, and I hope we can preserve that, because so far it is preserved. Not necessarily in the culture, but in the landscape, in the fact that it allows the monks to practice. If you go to the mountains, you still meet yogis who are in lifetime retreats. So people might think that's a waste of time, but actually the energy they give out and then the teachings they give. Because if you look in Tibetan history, for example, we can look at Milarepa. He spent his whole life in the mountains, but his effect on many generations is huge. Whereas social workers, maybe like I was a social worker here for a while, when I'm dead, people won't remember me. But Milarepa, who didn't come out of the cave, basically, his influence is for generations. Buddhism is not only sitting meditation, it's about symbolism and many things that can change you by seeing it, by reflecting on it, looking at it. So there are powerful places which you don't always sitting meditation like in a traditional Buddhist way, but I say power places which maybe change you. You see it and it changes you. Maybe I would say something like Rinchen Pompa in Lhunse, Kute. I found that place very beautiful, very wonderful. So it's so very sacred, I should say. Because when people go to places, usually they say, wow, that place is amazing and I feel something, and I never feel anything, I'll be honest. And usually they can see things in the walls and the mirrors. I can't see them. Maybe I don't have good enough karma, but Rinchen Bumba, I did feel something unique there, something that kind of changed. When I left, I felt something stayed with me for a long time in Rinchen Bumba. And of course, there are many places. Jakar is the main town in Bhutan. And I think Jakar, even though it's a commercial town, it's a city, it has a lot of sacred sites. And I feel that energy is in Jakar. So when I enter the valley, coming in from Chume into Jakar, just seeing the valley and then Nankai Nimbaruchi's monastery up and then Jakar Zong, I feel something there too. It feels like this valley is somehow blessed. Oh, I'm not very mindful. I can't even remember where I put my keys usually. I'm not the most mindful person. But we do try to practice kind of mindfulness. It's the basis of Buddhist practice. If you're talking about mindfulness in terms of normal Buddhism, we would use it in shamatha, which is we call shine in Dzongkha. Shine, which is a very focused on an object. That's a very basic practice. Wouldn't say basic, it's a root practice, I should say. And then when we do vipassana, which is Hlatong in Dzongkha, you need mindfulness because you have to be aware of things, body sensations, mind. So when you're aware of things deeply and long enough, you begin to realize the essence of what the Buddha taught, that all things are impermanent, all things are an illusion. Because normally we don't see things properly. We just say, oh, there's that person, but that person is made up of many parts, you know. When you say, I'm well, which part of me is well? Actually, maybe my finger is not good today. But we say, I'm well, we just put a whole thing. But according to Buddhism, that's not how it is. Everything is just parts, temporarily joining together. So we need the mindfulness for that. But I'm not very good at mindfulness, which is why, in this way, the practices we have in Bhutan are very good, because we can practice mindfulness, but most people can't do it for too long. But then we have other practices like mantra chanting, which you can focus on the mantra. And then maybe if you're doing some ritual puja, you can focus on the sound, you can focus on the smells of the incense. So the whole thing allows you to rotate your mindfulness rather than just sitting, which is not that easy. I chant, I do some mantras, I do prostrations. I sometimes go to the mountains in the morning. Timbu is surrounded with a valley. People don't know that. Every town in Bhutan is either on a mountain or in a valley. And there's often like sacred places around, so not very far. So I try to go somewhere to do practice, but I'm not very mindful. I usually do practices related to Guru Rinpoche. Then I do some writing, which I guess again needs a certain amount of mindfulness to focus. You need to see the smaller picture, the bigger picture, what you're trying to say, what you're trying to write. Then at night, I usually go to the Chotin, the stupa, the main stupa in Timbu. Again, that can be a mindful practice. You can focus on the mantra that you're chanting. You can focus on your foot, the sound of your feet, tuck, tuck, tuck. You can focus on the people around you. You can focus on the breeze touching you. Usually, I'm not that mindful. Usually, I get lost, but at least something is happening around. So it's like having a horse and a donkey. Maybe the horse is where you want to ride. This is the higher practice of being aware, being in the moment. But when you can't do it, you don't fall on the floor. You do another practice like chanting. So you fall on the donkey. So you don't just flat. So I guess it's like that. I think you have to be curious about life. What is life about? And not just follow the crowd, maybe. Look at what life is about. And I think Bhutan has got a deep wisdom culture. And I think if you can explore that, it's very helpful. As I said, I lived in Taiwan. And a lot of Bhutanese monks can go to Taiwan because, as I said, Taiwan is very developed, very educated, one of the most educated places on the planet, one of the richest places on the planet. But still, they want this wisdom because they know that just having economic development is not enough. They're still going to face old age. They're still going to face sickness. They're still going to face death. The Buddha taught that everything is impermanent. Everything is compounded. And no matter how wealthy a country is, it cannot protect you from that. So I think Buddhism can teach you to look at that. So it doesn't mean you reject life, but you infuse that wisdom into your daily life. And I think that's one thing Bhutan can help people to understand. Because the particular practices here are not necessary that you have to leave life. I think that's why it appeals to places like Taiwan, because people are very rich and they have good jobs, but they'll come out of a skyscraper and they'll go to some meditation center run by some lamas, and they don't see any separation between the two. A lot of countries, I think, oh, if I'm an educated executive, I won't go to a place which has a skull and all these looks like superstition things, because I felt Taiwan doesn't have that. And I think Bhutan has that wisdom to teach a method which can be infused in daily life. GNH is a government policy, basically. If you want to have people who are in a state of well-being, you have to put in the right ingredients. It doesn't just come. So a lot of countries try to do it through economics only, and it's not working. You can see many countries in the West or around the world who have quite a high GDP, but they're not safe, they're not happy. There's a lot of suicidal rates, high suicidal rates. So I think to make the society generally content, you have to put in the right ingredients, like planting a tree. I think just going for economics is like pulling the tree, and it dies. I think GNH philosophy, maybe they put in the right ingredients so that the tree can grow, it can flourish. So happiness or general awareness, a content society has to be nurtured. And I think GNH is the nurturing of that. But as I say, it's a government policy, so it's a government philosophy. And I think Bhutan, we have free medicine, we have free education. Bhutan is not the richest country in the world, but the citizens are well looked after. And I think that's something we can also share with the world, because there are a lot of wealthier countries that don't offer free medicine and free education. And I think that could come out of Buddhist philosophy, because we understand we're all connected. So if you have a healthy and educated society, we all benefit. It's like the heart and the kidneys and the liver. If the heart alone is healthy and it doesn't share that wealth of the blood with the kidneys and the liver, the body will get sick. So I think Buddhists understands that the whole lot have to work together. So I think Bhutan has that in its philosophy. That's why we had from a long time ago, free medicine, free education, most rewarding. I think maybe being with my teacher. In the Vajrayana tradition, we talk about Tsawai Lama, which is our root teacher. And I think when you're with that kind of person who's really an awakened being, something changes. So just being in their presence, you feel something, and a different way of looking at life just changes everything. So I think those special moments being with the teacher, maybe the highlights where you feel you're in, almost the way you look at the world suddenly changes. You see things differently. And you can't put it into words, it just changes. Something is different. Because maybe they're at such a level of seeing the world that being with them, you feel that this fearless is there. It's very rare to be among people who are fearless. Most people are scared of something. But when you're with a high, realized, I would say, teacher, there's no fear of death. You can't give them anything, they don't care. Many of the great masters we read historically, they were given gold and silver and they just left it on the ground. Then others were threatened, they also didn't care. And to be with somebody who's totally fearless is kind of scary, but also very inspiring. Yeah, because we're so used to manipulating others, and when you realize you can't manipulate somebody, you think, oh, but that somehow changes your perspective of how you see the world. According to Buddhism, basically everything is based on merit. How we see the world, like if we talk about merit, if we have a table here, for example, 4 legs on the top, we'd all say, oh, it's a table, because we have a merit of an adult human being from a developed society. You show it to a child, they might not think of a table, they might think of it as a place to hide. You see a goat, the goat might jump on it, think it's a place to stand. Somebody in the Amazon jungle might think it's a raft. So it all depends on our merit, how we see things. And it's also the same as when we can get access to practice and to understand things. Because you give somebody a Buddhist book and they might read it and think it's boring. Somebody else might read it and get a little bit, and somebody who's got a lot of merit will think, wow, this really changed me. So a lot depends on merit. So I think if you don't have a Tsaiwai Lama, you do a lot of meritorious things, chanting, going on the stupa, even good acts towards others, and dedicated that may I have the merit that I can find at Tsaiwai Lama, our root guru. but not just because I want a root guru, it's because you want to benefit others. So the ultimate aim of Buddhism is to benefit others. So you want that root guru so he can help you to wake up from that nightmare or from that dream, so that you can then help others to wake up from that dream. Kind of like that. So those who don't have a Tsawe Lama should do meritorious deeds, so that with the aspiration that may I find a Lama who can help me so that I can benefit others. Basically try to be empathetic, at least be empathetic. Put yourself in others' shoes. I mean, even if you don't want to aim at a high practice, understand others and it doesn't have to be a high ideal. If you work in an office, come on time, people are waiting for you. Don't come back from lunch late, people are waiting for you. Do the job beautifully so the person is happy. And when you do that, you'll feel good. When you drag your feet and you come late or you do things slowly or not well, you don't feel good about yourself. But when you see that person coming in and you give them the job, and you also feel good. So I think but understand that how you would feel if you're waiting in an office and you've got to go and you're going back to some other part of the world or back to another part of the country. So I think always try to put yourself in others' shoes, so that then at least you can have that kindness feeling, which comes naturally rather than compassion, which is also usually looking down. I'm being compassionate because I'm in a higher state. Empathy is more like understanding your feelings. So I think at least try to be empathetic. In this day and age, maybe that's the best we can do. Thank you.